Hi and welcome back. I'm going to be building a indicator holder from these plans. These plans come from Stefan Gotteswinter, which are freely available on the internet for use. Stefan is a German guy. He's a very clever engineer and works on very accurate, small detailed machinings and really interesting to follow. There's several people that have made these. One is Craig's workshop, Matty's workshop, Emma's spare room, and who was the other one? Oh, Max Grant. So I thought I'd make one because I have got one at presently, but it's quite a big one, and I wanted a smaller version, this is ideal to sweep those smaller areas. So anyway, we'll put the plans on the table and we'll have a look and we'll see what parts we're going to make first. So here's the indicator altogether, including the dial test indicator as well. So this part here sticks up into the head of the milling machine, and obviously the rest of it allows you to, if you had something like a cylinder say, you could sweep round the outside, to get this dead centre to the spindles, to your spindle of your milling machine. So we'll just go through the rest of the plan. So here's a side view. So as you can see here, you can see how the mechanism works and is all fully adjustable. And then we've got the arm which holds everything together, and they've got the swivel pins, and there's the dimensions for the swivel pins. And then the indicator itself is held in by the use of a dovetail. So we're going to have to machine that in as well. And then we've got a small thread on here, and that will tighten up against the back of the dovetail on the indicator itself and hold that in position. And then we've got the knobs and the various other bits, a couple of brass washers or bronze washers. Yeah, so there's the plans. So we'll get underway and we'll start machining that. First part I'm going to make is the arm, which holds everything together. And off one end of this will be the part which will go up into the collet chuck on the mill, and the other end obviously has the test dial indicator connected to it. So we're going to be using CAD to draw this part, and then we'll take it into the CAM software and then we'll get it cut on the CNC. So to begin with, we're going to draw, or the easiest way to draw this is to draw two circles, one with a radius of 35 and the other with a radius of 25. And then we'll start from there. So we'll jump over to CAD and then we'll start the drawing process. Right, so we'll pick the circle tool and we'll draw our largest circle, which was at a radius of 35mm. And then we need to drill the next circle at a radius of 25, but we need that in the dead centre of this outer circle. And the way in which CAD allows you to do that is if I hover just over the quadrants of this circle, you'll see these little green things start to appear. And also one for the centre. And they are snap points. And if I now wait for the one to appear in the centre and then click, you'll see that our next circle will now be in the dead centre of the outer circle. And that needs to be at a radius of 25mm. So now we'll go back to Stefan's drawing, and we also need this other circle which is in like purple, and that's where the holes are going to be placed on for the arms to connect to. So we've got a radius of 35 and one of 25, so this one's obviously in the middle of 30mm. So go back to the drawing and we'll draw the one in at 30mm. Not there though, we want to snap to the centre and draw that one at 30. So there's our three circles, and we'll go back to the drawing again, and we now need to draw these holes, but they're not at 180 degrees but this is the centre line here, so 180 would be down here, so they're offset. So the way in which we can find where those are going to come is to work from the centre of the circles again. And we've got a distance between those two circles of 58mm. So obviously half of that is 29mm. So if we work from the centre and draw out 29mm, and then we'll draw a line dead up, and I'll show you how we get to draw these circles accurately here. So pick the line tool, find the centre of the circles, and we want to draw straight out to the left at a distance of 29 mil, and then we'll just draw straight up to wherever, it doesn't matter. So now we need to, I'll just go back to Stefan's drawing. So this circle here we know has got a dimension of 5 millimeters. So we need to pick the circle tool again, and you can see now that we can snap onto where these lines meet by an intersection. So we'll pick that, and we need to have a diameter of 5 or a radius of 2.5. And also, while we're here, we need to draw this radius around here, which has got a radius of 5 mil. So now we can work from the center of this circle, and we will pick a radius of 5 mil. So we can get rid of these lines now because they're used. Right, so we want to copy these two to the other side. So what we can do is use the mirror tool, and we can just select both circles, pick a center point which we can work off the center here, and this line here will be dead center, and there we have it. And all what's left to do now is just to trim the unnecessary bits what we don't need. So we use a tool called trim, and we'll select the whole drawing, and then we'll start to get rid of the pieces what we don't need. And that will just leave us with the arm which we do need. So there you have it. That is the arm complete. So we'll now take that across to the CAM software, and we'll get that programmed up ready for the CNC machine. So here's our piece of aluminium all fixed down and ready to machine. What we're going to do first are these two holes here, and we've got a 3mm cutter or 3mm end mill in the router at the moment, ready to cut those. And we're going to use an operation called spiral ramp cut, which means that the cutter will ramp into the part and then spiral its way through the part. And that's simply because we don't want to put too much load on this cutter, because these 3mm ones they are prone to snapping. Then after that we're going to swap over to a 5mm cutter, and we're going to proceed to cut the part out. Once I've cut these two smaller holes in the middle here, I'm going to then put some screws into there and screw those into the timber, and that will be used to hold that part down while it's being cut out. So before we can start machining the piece, we need to tell the router itself, or the CNC, two things. We need the X and Y coordinates, which in this case is just going to be 0, 0, but also we need to tell it where the surface of this metal is. And the way we can do that is by using what they call a touch probe. So we'll just get that set up, and then we'll run the command. So the CNC uses Mach 3, which is just like a popular home CNC type software, which is used quite a lot throughout the world. And then within that Mach 3 software there, I've got a macro running which will do a touch off process. So if we just run that, it will come down, touch the metal, and then raise the cutter 10mm off the surface of the part. Right, so we're now ready to machine, so we'll get it all switched on, and then we'll proceed to machine those holes. Right, so that's our 3mm holes all machined. So we'll now fix this part down with some screws. So I'll now change this cutter over for 5mm and then we'll cut the part out. So we need to go through the same process again of doing a touch off on the part. So we'll just bring the machine over. And using our touch probe again, we just tell it to probe it. And now we're set up to use the new 5mm cutter. Right, so that's our part all machined. So let's clean up and we'll take the screws out. And here's our arm already machined, so it's come out reasonably well. Obviously, like I was saying, the machine itself isn't rigid enough really to do thick aluminium, but with a bit of clean up, that will that will come up well. So I've given this a bit of a clean up and just took out the rougher areas, and now we'll just give it a polish on the polisher there. And that's that part made. So it's still a bit dirty just from the fingers and that, but so once it's finished I'll give it a nice clean up. So yeah, so now it's time to move on to the next parts. So next on the list is a couple of these swivel pins. They're going to be made out of drill rod or silver steel. I'm going to machine those in the collet chuck on the lathe because this portion here is going to be threaded, and when I flick it round to machine the backs I don't want to damage the threads, so the collet chuck will, you know, the way it grips it won't damage the threads. And then when we turn it round and machine these back pieces, I want to machine those to be a press fit into these holes. So we'll get the collet chuck onto the lathe and we'll start to machine those. So here's all the parts finished, what you can see here. So we've got the arm, which is all now polished up and ready, and then we've got the two swivel pins. So they're exactly the same as one another. So the only thing I did do was I made this slightly wider, the dimension on that, just to allow me to press fit that when it comes to final assembly of the indicator holder. So all finished, all done, and now it's time to move on to the next stage. Anyway, this is the end of part 1. So if you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.